Hello and welcome to the WLJA Sports Show right here on North Georgia's 101.1 FM, WLJA. I am your host, Will Cooper, joined alongside our diamond voice of the broadcast, Diamond Dave Garner. Dave, thanks for being back with us.
Hey, man, I tell you what, all kinds of nicknames floating around this place, you know.
There is.
There's a couple of them we still got to figure out, though. We've got to still find something good for Asa, you know. I think he's still out there, but and Michael, need to work on that.
Well, look, here's what I've got laid out so far. We got legendary Larry Prather, Diamond Dave Garner. We got Will the Thrill Cooper.
Okay.
Magic Michael Searcy.
Yeah.
Ace of Spades Jones.
Yeah, which I don't think he likes that, by the way.
Well, I say it all the time. maybe we should have a meeting about that. But either way, this is an exciting week with, we're going to be a little cut down on our crew. Obviously, Larry's out of town with Reinhardt. They're making a travel up to Kentucky, as he mentioned on our last broadcast. So, looking ahead to this week, it sounds like it's going to be you and me kind of sharing the booth a little bit if the weather permits it.
Right. We tried that a couple weeks ago at Etowah, and it wouldn't cooperate. So, but no, I'm excited about it, man. You and I, working together, teaming together, and being in the booth is going to be awesome. And, we'll still have Michael hanging around, and we'll have, of course, Asa making us sound good back on master control. But, no, I'm excited, and, it just happens to be a great game. I mean, the Battle East Cherokee, Creekview, Sequoia, always one of the ones that we circle coming into the season because of the excitement level that's really surrounded that game. And, although the results haven't been there this year for both teams like they were last year at this time, when they met last year, they were both top 5 teams. Not so much this year, but I don't think that it's diminished the excitement of this game at all. Because there's still a lot to play for, and obviously with teams just getting started really in their region schedule, a lot on the line.
Well, I think you're exactly right as far as that goes. I mean, looking at both sides of the coin here, for Creekview, I think they're kind of in the mindset of, okay, we're not going to run with Dalton, and we're not going to run with Allatoona, given, the scores of those final games. But, I think Creekview thinks right now maybe we can get in one of those 3rd or 4th slots and kind of get into the playoffs and do what they did last year and go on a run. Now, obviously,
right.
it's a completely different team. But on the other side of that coin is you have Sequoia, who hasn't really played the region schedule yet. As far as like Creekview has, they haven't faced Dalton, they have faced Dalton, but they haven't faced Allatoona, and they have yet to face Harrison. So a lot of the more challenging matchups are still yet to come. So I think Sequoia has a real opportunity to make a statement and kind of establish an identity.
I think so too, and I definitely think it starts this week. You talked about Harrison. I mean, to me, that's one of the teams that really stands out. And when you're looking at the pecking order right now, and it's obviously early. I mean, this is things for folks like you and I to talk about from a fan's point of view. But you're looking at Dalton, obviously, with what they bring to the table. We've already seen them. We know how good they are. Allatoona is one of those teams that a lot of people feel like could be a state championship type contender out of this region. And then you've got Harrison sitting there. So really right now, if you're Creekview and or Sequoia, I mean, you're still eyeing one of those home playoff games, in the first round. But realistically, it's going to be a tough road. So at this point, it may very well be that the number 3 or the number 4 team out of the region, that final playoff spot, ultimately gets determined by this game Friday night. It could either be Creekview or Sequoia. Obviously, there's a lot of football left to be played after this week, but I think this is that game that we're going to look back at the end of the year and say, well, that was the game that ultimately decided that, 3rd or 4th seed or what have you.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more. I think you see right now that Harrison and Dalton and Allatoona are all performing on a completely different level than
Right.
we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, finally Harrison was able to slow down Dalton, which is some good news, I think, for everybody else in the region. But at the same time, that speaks volumes about Harrison. Now, of course, looking across the county into our 7A matchup, there's another big matchup going on where we got Cherokee and Etowah going in, and it sounds like when I looked, Cherokee has scheduled Etowah as their homecoming game.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I
And that's the oldest rivalry, of course, in the county, if you look at it. And it's always hard to pick because the thing that we run into with scheduling is, we typically have those 2 intercounty matchups taking place on the same week. I wish they spread them out a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have the Etowah, Cherokee matchup simply because it is that rivalry game that's been around forever. And I think this year, especially with Cherokee trying to make that push and Etowah still in the thick of things, that would be a great game to have. But obviously, we didn't want to miss out on the Sequoia, Creekview game just because of what it's meant over the last year or two. So yeah, we're going to definitely be keeping a close eye on that ball game as well. I think the power obviously has shifted a little bit to the north end of the county when it comes to that 7A region. Woodstock has struggled a little bit, although they did pick up the big win on Friday night that we had. That was great to see over a pretty decent North Forsyth team. Etowah still in the thick of things. I don't think they're where they were at maybe a couple years ago, but now all of a sudden I think Cherokee's that team that is going to be sitting in that seat of possibly being a third or a fourth seed, or maybe even higher than that if they can maybe go in and upset a Walton or a Roswell. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that game Friday night as well.
And I think a lot of Cherokee fans got the ability to see how good they are compared to a team like Cartersville, who
right.
is pretty much a predominant state champion contender. So I think for Cherokee they're very exciting. I think it was, obviously they're scheduling, your homecoming game is supposed to be one you're sure you're going to win.
Right.
So now Etowah, listen, they gave Hillgrove a run for their money, taking them into overtime, not this week, but last week.
Sure.
And Hillgrove was ranked in the top 20 in the state.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I think that Etowah might be showing a little something that, they've learned a lot throughout this process of getting into the region schedule. And like you said, Woodstock with the big win over there, over North Forsyth this past week, gives them kind of the ability to go into a region schedule with a little bit of confidence. Obviously not where they wanted to be, but,
right.
At least you have a win in your back pocket to go against. So I think you're exactly right as far as that goes. And what is your feeling as that region is kind of shaping up? Who's your pick out of Cherokee County right now?
Well, I think that if we're talking about Region 4, 7A, I mean, here's the thing about it. You've only got to be better than one or two of the other teams in the region to get in the playoffs, because it's a 16 region, much like Region 5 is in 7A with North Forsyth and that whole side that we were talking about. So, again, when you get up into the 7A classes, you tend to have, there's only so many schools that are that big. So the regions tend to be a little bit smaller. So I think that, I like Cherokee. I mean, obviously Walton is always a team to contend with if we're talking about Region 4, but you've only got to be better than a couple of them. And here's the thing. I mean, Woodstock, Etowah, any of those teams, they all have a chance right now because they're just starting the region schedule. And so the games that count are now. You can look at what's happened so far as basically a tune-up. And so these are the games that count basically from this week moving forward as far as the playoff picture is concerned. So it's almost like everyone's starting all over again 0-0. And so it's all about momentum at this point. And Woodstock was able to establish a little bit of momentum on Friday night, getting that big win.
Right.
Etowah, you talked about their performance against Hillgrove, and even further back to the game that you and I were supposed to work together that got pushed to the next night was that Pepperbrook game. Pepperbrook has a lot of talent, and Etowah was able to put up a lot of points on those guys and win that one. So they've done a pretty good job overall, and I think that I wouldn't be surprised, let's say, they give Cherokee a game on Friday night. I like the Warriors in the game simply because of where they're at right now and the momentum that they've built. And then on the, the Region 6 side, 6A, the game that we're going to have, of course, Friday night, I think is going to be a game that may very well decide that 3 or 4 spot, just simply because when you look at the rest of the region, obviously Harrison, Allatoona, and Dalton, you got to feel like are a lock probably at 1, 2, and 3. Who's to say that we can't go and upset somebody later in the year? I know Sequoia's got Allatoona, I think, in the final week of the regular season, a game that we're supposed to have. So, you never know. I mean, where teams are going to be at. A lot of teams progress. A lot of things happen. The dynamics of teams change through the course of a season, whether it be injuries or what have you. So, who knows where we're going to be at, 4 or 5 weeks from now. But it's hard to believe we're already halfway through the regular season. You and I were talking about that on Friday night, 6 down, basically 6 to go for our schedule. And, man, I'm excited about it because this second half is where the playoffs start, and it was fun having some inter-county games early in the year, but now these region games start basically this week for pretty much everyone. And, man, I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun.
Well, real quick, we got about a minute left, and I know that you're a big Falcons fan. So I just have to ask, what's your assessment of our Atlanta Falcons right now?
And you had to go there, didn't you?
I did.
I tell you what, it was hard watching Sunday's game. It really was. You don't expect to get dominated at home against the Tennessee Titans, a team that had a lot of question marks, especially at their quarterback. I mean, a lot of folks feel like Marcus Mariota is kind of at the tail end of maybe his stay in Tennessee. A lot of folks were questioning whether or not he was going to be the guy moving forward. And in typical Atlanta fashion, we make the mediocre quarterbacks look like all pros. And It's just been our MO, I think, for I don't know, ever since I've been a fan. But, yeah, very frustrating. There's obviously a lot of things to work out. I didn't like their chances going to Houston this week, even before this past game. I felt like this was definitely a must-win at home, especially getting ready to go to Houston. But now your backs are really against the wall. I mean, if you start out 1-4, I mean, you can pretty much pack it in at that point. I don't. The thing I think that's the most frustrating thing for me, real quick, and I know we're about out of time, is that no one seems to know why. And I can't. I mean, I can look at a game, I can look at a team and tell you why they're bad or good. This is a Falcon team that I can't put my thumb on why they are the way they are. I mean, I really can't. I mean, they have a roster. In my opinion, and I think a lot of people feel like, when you have a healthy Matt Ryan, a healthy Julio Jones, you got Devontae Freeman, and our offensive line's banged up, but still, I'm not sure they really even gave up a sack, the previous game, I mean, so it's not like they're playing terrible. It was defense just standing around, watching things happen. It's just so frustrating. I cannot put my finger on why this team has started the way they have, but it is what it is.
And I tell you real quick, another thing is that the Falcons, man, I mean, they have so much talent on the offensive side, and they just can't make it work. I mean, if you gave any other team, I feel like, if you gave them Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Mohamed Sanu, and Austin Hooper, and I don't care what the quarterback was, but if you gave them that kind of offensive firepower, they would make it work.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that are producing more with less.
And also,
and that's what's frustrating. And I think that starts at the top with coaching. I mean, I really do. And so I think obviously the seat is hot now for Dan Quinn. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, even the national media reports are saying a lot of the same stuff. And so it's man, it's a tough road for these guys right now.
Another one of our Atlanta teams that are in action, the Atlanta Braves. Obviously, they will kick off the NLDS schedule against the St. Louis Cardinals on Thursday. So, of course, that will be carried right here on WLJ 101.1 FM. Dave, I don't know if you're much of a Braves fan, or, I know you're certainly much more of a Falcons fan and an Atlanta United fan, but what's your assessment of this Braves team going into the postseason?
Well, definitely very much a Braves fan, although my second favorite team is the St. Louis Cardinals. It always has been. But I will definitely be a Braves fan first and foremost. But I can honestly say that whoever emerges out of that series will be the team I root for the rest of the way. But, no, I'm all in. I like where the Braves stand. I don't like how we ended the regular season, but again, I know it was a limited roster against the Mets. An interesting thing I heard this morning was when the Braves won the World Series back in '95, they ended the regular season by getting swept by the Mets because they'd already had everything wrapped up.
Right.
So isn't it ironic that this past weekend, we kind of packed it in.
Right.
Resting some guys. We were swept by the Mets, but hey, maybe that's a good thing.
Maybe.
So I like our momentum going in. As in years past, I mean, to make it into the postseason, you appreciated that, but I'll be disappointed if we don't win at least one series. If we get beat out in the NLCS against the Dodgers, for example, we'll know we got beat by a better team that had a better record, but it's going to be hard to swallow if we're not able to get through this NLDS series against the Cardinals. I hope they can get the momentum back and get rolling. Yeah,
I couldn't agree with you more, especially considering the pitching that is they are considering last year's performance.
Right.
But, Soroka and Keuchel and Fried and Foltynewicz, however you want to put them in the rotation, you have talent. And also on the back end with guys like Shane Green and, Mark Melancon, who really are kind of have been there for a while and have some experience.
Sure.
So we're looking forward to this week and all of our sports. So, of course, a little bit of rough start for some Atlanta fans, but don't worry, the Braves are going to be back in action on Thursday, hoping to bring home something a little more than just a regular season win. And also our coverage of the Cherokee County game of the week. It will be between the Creekview Grizzlies as they will go and visit the Sequoia Chiefs. Kicks off at 7 with our Children's Healthcare of Atlanta pregame show, and then the actual game starts at 7:30, and me and Dave Garner will have the call. Mike Searcy will be with us as well, and I'm sure that we'll have plenty of other people to mention once we get there, once we get the crew figured out. But, Dave, I'm looking forward to spending Friday night with you, buddy.
Yeah, man, as always, I'm excited about it. Hopefully the weather will be good. We'll be at Sequoia, so we'll be outside in the elements a little bit, but it's always a fun atmosphere, and looking forward to it.
And, of course, we'll be on the visitor side, so if any of the Creekview fans want to come by and give us a quick hello and, snap a picture with some Hall of Famers, if you will. Not me, but Mike
well, Larry
and
won't be
Dave.
there. But
you're a shoo-in. You're a shoo-in. I don't know what kind of Hall of Fame we're going to put you in, but you will be in one.
I was going to say, there's no telling, man. No telling.
But we're looking forward to spending Friday night with you. So, folks, make sure you tune in, and thank you for being with us on The Sports Show.